Hello everyone, this is CJ Novo 992 and today we're back for another brand new video, and as you can see by the length of this video, it can only mean one thing and one thing only. It is the return of the Rangers Review podcast with myself, David from Heart and Hand, and Stevie. The four lads had a dream. Yes they did, ladies and gentlemen, and as you can imagine, it's been a packed couple of weeks. There's so much things to actually break down and discuss, so many little details, so many little things that's been brought up and asked to us over the last week or so we try to answer every little thing. It's a crammed episode, but if you watch it all or listen to it all, I should say, you should be able to get the answers you've been firing our way. And as always, this is an audio podcast, it's not a visual podcast, so put it on, get the feet up, have a few babies, and wait for that special announcement.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another gathering of the clans, so to speak, where we bring three of, I think it's fair to say, Rangers leading fan media accounts together to basically have a chat with our mates, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. My name's David Edgar from Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, and I'm joined first of all by CJ Novo.
Hello mate. It's good to be back. I took a couple of weeks off. I didn't miss much. I don't think we've got a lot to catch up with this happening. It's going to be a wee short conversation, I think.
Quiet today.
Aye.
And of course, making up the third musketeer, if you will, it's Stevie Clifford from Four Lads Had a Dream and Heart and Hand.
Hello boys, how are we all?
It's a very Stevie Clifford day on Heart and Hand today because your Who Are You episode dropped this morning as well.
Oh.
Yeah, it was great to be on well, and I really like Alan, and it was a good show, and people have been really generous about the feedback. I had to laugh at the boy who said I was very level-headed and things. He obviously doesn't get the aftermath of games like you do, David and CJ.
After match. I think I'm beginning to call myself like NyQuil, because I reckon I can calm you down. I get 40 minutes to calm them down in the car afterwards after a bad result, and I reckon I manage it most times. But I think I might have struggled this week because, of course, Rangers are on the hunt for a new manager. Steven Gerrard is now the Aston Villa manager. Seemed to move very quickly. No, I'm not better.
No, absolutely not, mate.
Not better. I mean, I hope Villa get relegated, but that's not, and I just bought a Birmingham City tap. I genuinely did just buy a Birmingham City tap. But I'm not better.
No, mate, you just like the colours. You just like the colours.
The blue and white. Not better. Hope he's back in Liverpool in 6 weeks. But not better. No, all joking aside. Actually, let's start with that. That's a debate. That's something that we've seen.
Yeah.
Some Rangers fans have taken it very hard. Well, we all took it hard. That's unfair. But some Rangers fans are disgusted. He's walked out, which he has. I mean, he has walked out. There's no other way to put it. 2 weeks before a semi-final. Admittedly, with the club at the top of the league in that semi-final and still in a position to get out the Europa League group. So, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt he's leaving the club in a far, far better place than he found it. Not just him, incidentally. You've got to give credit, because they would get the blame if the club was in the worst place. You've got to give credit to those above them as well. But, Stevie, it's one of these things that I find a bit odd, that Steven Gerrard, as a manager, all managers do this. They'll pull on the emotional levers, because football support is irrational, isn't it? When you think of the amount of time that we all put in to following this team and the emotional energy that we spend on it, football support is irrational. So I find it a bit strange when someone makes a business decision, which this is, any of us changing a job, it's a business decision. But then to say, you've got to treat this as a purely unemotional, logical business decision. Whereas they're quick enough to then turn around to you and say, I need the fans to show passion and loyal, and all these emotions. I think it's a little bit cake and eat it.
Yeah, of course it is. If you ask the fans to be all in, don't expect them to be upset when you basically said, 2 days before leaving us, it's all about Rangers, and 2 weeks after giving such a quite sharp rebuke to Emma Dodds, you're going to get a natural reaction from that, and people are going to be emotionally led by it. So I think that's natural. I think that's a situation he created himself. But I don't think necessarily that the things he said at the time were wrong from a Rangers manager's point of view. But if he's saying that knowing that he had these feelings in his head and in his heart, then it's different. But it's been a whirlwind week. I think that's fair to say. When this first broke, I wasn't sure that it was any more than a Newcastle-based kind of thing. And then very quickly realised it wasn't.
The feel was different,
emotions.
wasn't it? Somehow.
Yeah. I think straight away we knew that it was different. Amongst ourselves, we almost spoke, and we knew it was a different scenario. And as I said, it's mixed feelings because, on one hand, I think that the job that he's done, and if you go back to the Evolution podcast, David, we had a great time doing that.
Not for a while, mate. Not for a while. I'll be going back to it.
Oh, in fairness, you're right. But I think that there were so many highs and so many kind of achievements under him that it's difficult for me to feel the kind of anger towards it. I'm disappointed, actually, but at the same time, I do think it might be the right time for everyone. If he does feel, and if his reasons are that he kind of wants a different challenge and he's reached his ceiling, it doesn't really matter what we think. If we think there's more to do and there's more to go, if he believes that, it'll then start seeping into the team and into team talks and things like that. And at the moment, he's left us in a pretty good position where the new man coming in hopefully comes in and revitalises, kicks everybody on, and there's not much damage done. So I cannot feel bad towards him for that decision on that basis, in terms of if that's what he really thinks. I can honestly empathise and sympathise with anybody that feels anger and stuff, because that's different. He's created that by his words himself, so I get all that feeling. But for me, if he had reached the kind of bit where he's saying, I don't want to do this anymore, I can't give anymore, I've not got the passion anymore, then I'm absolutely fine, and I think it's the right thing to do, as controversial, CJ, maybe as that will be.
I think you're being fair. You have to look at it for different ways. Aye, absolutely. David, I think we all had a conversation when the news first started to break. Obviously, as we were having a break, I came back and I was like, boys, this doesn't feel right. Do you know what I mean? That's exactly what I said. He's like, this feels different. And then it just unfolded. I think he done like an interview today and he says they got the news on the Wednesday or something like that. They were interested. I think there maybe a wee bit of PR stuff going on there. It feels a wee bit like it happened a wee bit quicker than that and a wee bit earlier than that. But I think everyone's just... It's one of those things we put so much in the team, and when you're getting it back, we genuinely fell in love with him and everything. When you look at where we were with the team and everything we had at that point and what we achieved last season and everything, you really buy in. And then when you see him saying the same stuff to the new girl, do you know what I mean? You start feeling a wee bit jealous and everything like that as well. So I think you're being fair, Stevie. I thought you were going to come here and absolutely go crazy, but nah, I agree with you, mate. What about you, David? How are you feeling about all this?
Sad. I don't think it's any secret that I was pretty all in on him as a manager. I quite liked him.
Just a wee bit.
Reasonably fond of him because he had arrived at a time when we needed everything that he brought. We were a joke before he arrived, and he immediately stabilised the side. And he did of that. You know, he has Steven Gerrard. He's one of the most famous names of football. He brought us that injection of glamour, and I just think a wee reminder that we were a big club, that so many people in that decade before had almost tried to strip us of that he brought back, a lot of standards and whatnot, and he gave us 55, which is the most emotional title, as Stevie said, in our lifetime. And for that, I'm grateful. But there is the sense, when somebody that you don't want to leave leaves you, be it a player, be it a manager, then
we've had this conversation recently, Dave. No,
it's natural to feel, well, what have they got that we don't? In the case of Villa, what they have is the EPL, and that's what we don't, and the money, and we can't compete with that. I also wouldn't be stunned if it hadn't been communicated to Gerrard by Liverpool that they felt he needed
another
challenge if he was to get the Liverpool job in 2024. I thought it was really interesting. His contract with Villa's the same length as his Rangers one was, that expires in 2024. I thought that was really interesting because for those of you who maybe don't know, Jurgen Klopp has said many times he will retire in 2024. He's going to leave Liverpool in 2024. So I don't know that. That's just speculation on my part, but it wouldn't stun me. So at first there's a huge. I didn't want him to go, but then I began to consider what Stevie said, which is, look, I've been in, and incidentally, I'm from a trade union background. Anybody that wants to leave a workplace, so long as they do it, legally, and the terms are agreed and everything like that, I'm fine with that. Anyone's allowed an opportunity, including footballers, including football managers. But I don't care about individuals. I care about Rangers Football Club.
Bang on. Yeah.
That's the sad truth, and I admit that. My love for Steven Gerrard was because of what he could do and what he did for Rangers Football Club. It wasn't because of him. If it ever came down to a fight between Rangers and Steven Gerrard, I'd be lining up to give honours to Rangers. So I think that time is a great healer. I remember being devastated. I was only 13, right enough, but I was devastated when Graham Souness left, and really felt utterly rejected by him. And now, of course, he's an absolute hero. And I think that time will be generous to Gerrard with regard to that as well. I think it always is. Time is a great healer. But I would say the mix of emotions that Stevie described. I was disappointed, I was angry, I was hurt. But you try to put your colder, more logical head on, and you realise why he did it. And then the other thing is, as Stevie said, and this is key, I've been in jobs where the motivation's just gone, and it's a good job, and I liked it, and I liked the people I was there, and I liked what we were doing, but I just needed a new challenge. I just felt the itch in my feet, and I headed off somewhere else. And
it's better for everyone when you do that as well.
Because otherwise you do just sit and phone it in. You do just sit and phone it in, and that would have been horrible for Rangers. And I think, and again, this is very easy with hindsight, right? And I admit this so straight away, because people might say, well, you never said this 6 weeks ago. And you're right, I didn't, because I didn't look at it this way. We haven't been at it this year, really, up to the last 2 games domestically. I think it's fair to say that we haven't been at it. Defensively, we haven't been at it at all this year. And there are various reasons for that. The squad was hit pretty hard by COVID, and you don't just get over COVID. Incidentally, if you've had it, you don't just go, "Oh, that's me, I'm COVID free." It takes a while to get back to your full thing. So this is a good opportunity, and I think again we are so conditioned by the last 10 years to focus on the negative. And as you two, us three know, we get it a lot for, "Oh, you're so positive." Well, yeah, we are, I admit that. But I think that there are people that are quite negative because of what's happened to us. So I'm not having a go. I understand it. But then when you flip it and you do exactly what Stevie did, you go, hang on a minute here. We've got a good squad. It's top of the league despite not playing well. It's got a great opportunity here to go and play directly in the Champions League next year. It's in a League Cup semi-final. It's we'll still get the chance of getting into the Europa League, and even if we don't, we've still got a very, very, very good chance of getting in the Conference League, which would be a trophy I'd want is to have a serious go at winning. So it's a hell of an opportunity for somebody. And then when you look at the names that have been mentioned, some of which have been denied, some of which we'll come to, Geo van Bronckhorst, for example, clearly are in the running as we record this. I remember the list in 2017, and Stevie, you'll remember it as well. It had Derek Adams and Darren Ferguson on it, for Christ's sake. So there's no doubt about the progress we've made when you see the list of names that are being linked with the job this time around. So yeah, disappointed, hurt, but I'm pretty good at, right, okay, that's done, and that's where I am. I'm like, okay, he's gone now. Not to say, when I watch Match of the Day, when Aston Villa take on Brighton on Saturday, I might not be going, wow, that's weird, and feel a wee surge of emotion. That is undoubtedly going to happen, but I'm far, far more interested in who the next guy is for Rangers and what it can bring, because it's a new chapter, isn't it? It opens up a new door for us, Stevie. It's something, it gives us a whole new dream.
Yeah, and see, before we get on to the new manager and our thoughts and kind of excitement and things like that, which I think it is, we're all excited about what comes next. I wanted to say something without sounding like a proper Rangers da, and it's going to be impossible, but I'm going to go for it anyway.
Can't wait.
I'm really keen not to come around as being somebody that says, well, I'm glad that Steven Gerrard's away now, because I'm not glad, because I think he's done a really good job But I think it's okay to say at the same time, I think it is right for everyone. And I think there's a difference in that. And I don't want our points to be misconstrued by sounding like, the wee boy that's been dumped in the playground. Because I'm very thankful of the job that he's done. I'm very thankful of 55 and last season. There is disappointments along the way, of course there is, but some unbelievable highs in Europe. He took the standards of the club, which were rock bottom, and took them all the way up, with help of others, obviously. He's built what I consider to be a pretty damn good squad, and we have got, real potential this season to have a good one. So I'm very thankful of him, and I realise that it's not popular, and some people are angry with him and that, and I just think that with everything that I've kind of said, I think that it's best for everyone. So I don't feel bitterness towards it. I'm not, but at the same time, without sounding bad, it's not like I wish Steven Gerrard all the best or I'm going to keep an eye on him. My concern now, like David said, is Rangers and what we do next. Thanks for everything that you've done. Thanks for the standards you set. Thanks for 55, but I'm really excited about what comes next. And that's not a bitterness or not a kind of, you know what I'm trying to say? I don't want us to as being bitter towards him now that he's gone. I think we're all in a situation where we're really thankful, really appreciate the job he's done, but the excitement comes because we're Rangers. This is us. We're Rangers fans. As you said, David, you're right. We all love the club first, and the people that are driving it or steering it are merely guests in our life until they go on to their next thing, like the players when they come and go, etc. So I don't want to be like the wee boy that's been scored. I would rather say, great job he did, really thankful. Sometimes you need a bridge between the managers, their jobs. And if he's hit the point, and I think he has hit that point, then it's great for us that we can kick on. And that's obviously mass, gentlemen, and this comes to the next thing, because I don't think I would be as calm and rational about it if we were looking at that 2017 wanted manager list, David. But we've been very fortunate. Some of the names, boys, and even if they have been debunked or they've been false or whatever, but we're sitting here, right, and there's names like Koeman, Frank de Boer, Frank Lampard, Reno Gattuso. Then you look at the likes of Geo and stuff. That's exciting for me. That's a real
realistic.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
And that's the excitement, and there's various, ways you can look at it. But see, from me, that to me is really exciting. It's unbelievable, and I'm really happy with the speed and the way it's all moving along at the moment. I know we've all, maybe, I don't want to speak for you boys, obviously we'll go and talk about it, but it seems that mostly everybody's all got an early favourite. But to have those names is a real indication, CJ, I think, of where we are, and we can be thankful and move on quite quickly.
Aye, that's right, mate. You can appreciate the past, and you can obviously, the only future that really matters to us now is Rangers and everything. And that's what's going to be the main focus for us. That's what we're obviously going to be looking at. And genuinely, without trying to do a pun or that here, the future looks a bit bright now, because the person who's coming into the job's got a wee bit an easier job than what Gerrard walked into a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? In terms of the squad, where we are and everything, we're in a very, very good position. And it's now an attractive prospect to come here now. And there is managers that want this. This is why you're seeing the list and everything, and that in itself is a testament to the job that was done previously. But again, it's about where we go now, the future, because Rangers just keeps on rocking and rolling, and that's where we're going next. And the names that suit there, and some of the names you said, especially the one called Geo, just gets me very, very excited.
Yeah, I think,
David,
I think a key point you made there, Stephen, that I think does deserve a wee, was you mentioned there about you're not saying that it's the right thing for him to go unqualified. What you're saying is it's the right thing for him to go if he has lost his passion for the job.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, because I think he has. And again, I know this is looking back and seeing things with benefit of hindsight, but that is the benefit of hindsight. That's why it exists.
Yep. That's why directors make movies that something you have to watch twice to fully understand.
Yeah,
now we get it.
Exactly.
Now we understand it.
And I do. I think that's a great point. I don't want somebody at Rangers who is kind of one eye somewhere else. So that's why I always go back to summer 1997, when I picked up a newspaper one summer afternoon, and it was Brian Laudrup, Chelsea want him, Ajax want him and he wants to go. And I shat myself, right? And I was like, he cannot be allowed to go. We cannot let him go. We cannot let him go. And we didn't. And it was totally the wrong decision because that was not Brian Laudrup that year. Because mentally, when somebody checks out, they check out. So, yeah, it would have been better in the summer, obviously. It would have been far better next summer if he'd stayed and won another league, obviously. But it is what it is. And you can't...
Can have that round the players as well, because that can seep everywhere, and that can really cause me a problem.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Players know, I think. Players.
I think they already do a wee bit.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I think so. I mean, especially somebody that's very intense. If there's any drop off in that, it's very noticeable.
Yeah.
And I do wonder. Anyway, Stevie, you were going to say something.
Well, all I was going to say was before we kind of draw the line on the kind of thanks Steven Gerrard, we're moving on. But would it be possible for you to kind of outline where we are? And I don't say that bad. I just mean that you've obviously official club partner. You've had the kind of updates over the weekend and things. So before we go on to discuss who's realistic and their excitement and that, what's maybe thinking, where are we exactly at this point of recording?
Where we are exactly at this point of recording, as far as I know, right? And I do stress this, and I want to stress a couple of things. Geo is obviously in the running, as we record this, and there are two others. Rangers have denied, to me, to the other official media partners, to Sky, Rangers have denied that Derek McInnes, Frank Lampard, or Knutsen, the Bodo Glimt coach, are contenders. They have said that two of the 3-man list are not names that are in the public domain at the moment, and that is as much as I know. I don't know who the two names are. And again, people say, well, how come you know that McInnes isn't a contender, but you don't know who is? It's because they've told me McInnes isn't a contender, but they haven't told me who the two are. One of the things you get a lot, and Stevie, you know this, is people go, you kid on, you know more than us, but you don't really. No, I don't know any more than you, because I've literally just told you what I know, and now you know it too. So you're right, I don't know any more than you. But that's the situation when the three of us are sat here at the moment recording. That is the situation as far as has been told to any media sources. So the other thing was, there was a lot of talk about an announcement today, Monday. I don't think there will be. Could be proved wrong by the time people come to listen to this, but I'd be very surprised. Rangers have insisted every single kind of background statement to the press, doesn't matter who it is, has been, we will take our time and get the right appointment. And this morning they've actually said who's taking the team at the moment. Mm-hmm. I don't think they do that if somebody's getting announced at 8:00 on Monday night.
So you're telling me there's a chance? 8:00, is that what you're telling me?
There's always a chance. This is the thing about the 3-man list, that somebody who's not on that, who's a brilliant candidate, could phone up tonight and say, I'd like that job. So that's what I mean. It's such a fluid situation that things can change. I think Rangers are getting in on their man. I think they know who they want. And I think that what they're making sure is that they're not going to be in a position where, if it doesn't work out with the top guy, that there's nobody and it drags on. We know we got burned by that. Remember the 6 weeks, and then we go for Derek McInnes and we didn't even fucking get him. That was rough. So I think Rangers are very keen to avoid any situation like that. Again, it's a far better quality of candidate this time, so I mean that obviously helps. But the names you mentioned, Stevie, I think are people that were interested in the job, because I think in fact I know that it didn't come from Rangers, these names. So of course, who did it come from? Them. Yeah, it's their side. That Stevie knows how the press works really well. You know how the press works. It's any of these situations, you look at who could have put that out. Was it Rangers? No, definitely wasn't in this case. We can say that absolutely, because Rangers are again, they lock down every. I mean, Rangers treat rumours the way the rest of us treat, armed robbers. They just run away. They hate them. They do. Rangers despise leaks, right?
This is so true.
It is, isn't it? It wasn't Rangers.
Really
it was not Rangers. The Geo is public because Geo's agent commented on it. Right, and obviously there was them pictures. Rangers haven't confirmed this, but they haven't denied it either. But that's why that was kind of at the front of the mix. But the names that you mentioned there that have been kicking about, the reason that they've been mentioned is their camps have said to journalists, whatever, be it in their home countries, be it in the UK, we'd be, not we're in the running, but just we would take that. That would be a job we'd want to talk about.
Our names into those lights when everyone's looking at it. Get our name about.
Yeah, but I mean, the McInnes link came.
That's unbelievable.
It was a journalist who's a close friend of his, so clearly he's doing his mate a favour, and that's it's a normal human thing to do. Again, though, the Rangers board aren't mental, and any manager you've got to be able to sell, and that's why whenever I hear people say we should go for this coach, and they pick a guy out who's coaching in the Czech Republic or Portugal or whatever, not a glamorous name, maybe not even one that ordinary fans like us know, and they go, if you look at his track record and the way his teams play football, and you're like, well, that's great, but our fans will shit all over that.
Yeah.
And if you don't have buy-in at the start, I think it's nearly impossible, because if nobody really wants you there, then if you don't go off to a flyer, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that with Pedro. That there was nothing for the fans.
That's exactly who I was thinking about when you were talking about there.
But
you could feel it. Yeah.
You could be the best coach in the world, but if the whole Rangers support is kind of sat there with their arms folded, going, "All right then."
Yeah.
I don't think taking off 3-year defenders at home at Motherwell 1-0 down at half time really helped him that much.
That frightened me a bit. Yeah.
Michael Hallen at right back. Oh yeah, that was some time that.
As it was, John Torrell at centre half and stuff. I think we all went, oh dear. So at least we're not playing Motherwell this weekend. But
no, it's usually I went to Big X first game was against Motherwell as well, and Paul Le Guen's. Think about it, because I was at those two games. Yeah, so you're right. It's a bit of a weird one. When's our next Motherwell game? That might be the week that we have. Can we get a bet on that?
Well, we've actually just beaten.
Odds slashed. So, there you are.
Manager in 3 months, folks. When we go for.
Please don't even joke about that, because I couldn't handle that.
No, I couldn't cope with that. No. But I do, Stevie. I do think you need that initial buy-in. It's a wee bit like a relationship. I think you've got to fancy the person at the start. It might fade through time, and then the companionship and everything becomes a thing. That's great. But I think at the start there's got to be that feeling.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was like when Gerrard walked in. Do you remember, like when we all heard about the news, the reaction, and we were talking and everything like that? It was mental. It was unbelievable. Everyone right for the start, and that gave us the boost. I mean, Let's Go still gets chanted. That was like literally one of the first things they said, and everyone bought into that right away. So no pressure on the next guy's first press conference. He needs a line.
Geo has it. Geo has that buy-in. If you look at the
100%.
People would take that, and I do think it's important. And you could be the best coach in the world, but if you walk in and the fans shit all over it, I don't think because the press will then pick up on the funny foreigner thing, and it just becomes a nightmare.
Every little thing come after you. Sorry, Stephen.
No, sorry, boys. I was just saying, David. I think that's a really good point. I don't think that if Geo, for example, comes in, and I was going to ask you boys like what direction you wanted to go in, so I may as well before I kind of put that back to you and then answer it myself. I was going to just say, David, I agree with that 100%. You're not going to get that angle with Geo, one, because it's not possible for them to do it, and two, because we would never allow it. Immediately with Giovanni, like it's like a long lost son. We've already got that affinity with him. You've already got that relationship, and after the Rangers history on Twitter put up the Rangers clips one, put up the clips of all these goals. We were practically fawning all over him. I certainly was.
Yep.
And you just remember how much of a Rolls Royce he was. And to be fair to Gio, he was such a good player, but he slightly went under the radar because he wasn't the superstar of that team, which sounds really strange for a guy we got $8.5 million for, but he wasn't. There was other players in there. like Alberts and Amorusos and Newmans and stuff that were better, not better, that's the wrong word, but higher.
Bigger.
Yeah,
Aye,
bigger
bigger
profiles.
in the eyes of the fans and stuff, whereas he just motored along. And when you look at his highlights, look at the things he's done during his career. When you look at, going to Arsenal, winning the Premier League, going to Barcelona, Champions League glory, etc., then going to Feyenoord. This guy arguably
internationally as well, unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Coaching, not coaching, captaining Holland and what they did in the World Cup and stuff like that was there. Arguably, and again, I don't want this to become a dig at anybody else, but arguably his track record, footballing wise, is bigger than anything. But he just doesn't have the name, perhaps, that Steven Gerrard has.
100,000,000%, because you used a great phrase there to describe Gio. He just motored along, and he did. He was like a Rolls Royce. His whole career, he was just class. Here are the reasons. Oh yeah, I mean, but here are the reasons that I would be happy with Gio, and I'm not saying he's my preferred choice, folks, because I don't know who the other two are. Okay, but here's why I think Gio, who we do know about, would work. One, that initial buy-in from the fans, very important. Two, that buy-in from players, because he walks in and he says, "Hi, folks, this is my full collection of Scottish medals, which you don't have yet, most of you. I've got these, right? Here is my EPL medal. Here are my La Liga medals. Here's my Champions League medals. Oh, and this is a photo of me captaining my country in the World Cup final." So you've got that buy-in from the players straight away. He won't fail the show me your medals test there. Thirdly, and I think this is important, he knows that it's tough to go to Motherwell or Hibs or Dundee United. That yes, you're Rangers and you should win, but that if you don't go there with the right attitude, you can come a cropper. I just think back to Le Guin coming in and thinking, well, 4 games a season here against Celtic and the rest of it is a doddle. And he never got his head round, actually, it's not a doddle. Yeah, they're not great teams, but they fight. And if you're not up for that fight. And lastly, and this might sound silly, but I think it's a decent argument, he plays 4-3-3 with high fullbacks.
Yes.
Meaning you don't have a manager coming in and saying to the players, right, mid-season, I'm ripping up everything that we do and we're doing something completely different. And you've then got that couple of months where they're trying to get their head around it. I think a manager that walks in and says, I'll make some tweaks, obviously, but the basic shape and structure remains the same. How often do you see a manager walk into a side mid-season, completely change everything around, and he doesn't have the squad for it? And you've got guys playing out of position, and it goes wrong. So those would be the reasons why I think he fits.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Especially that last one there. And actually thinking of another name and everything, you're very similar, because I remember when Frank de Boer went to Crystal Palace and he tried to put his 4-3-3 into style when they were used to playing a certain way. And it only lasted, a couple of weeks, couple of months, because they they just could not accept the change and couldn't get used to it. So I do think, as silly as that sounds, it is so important to get a manager's philosophy that already matches the team, especially when we've built our squad. It's not as if we're just going to be buying loads of people in, and we're not like one of those teams that just sort of buys whatever manager comes in. We've actually built our squad season upon season. So I really think the fact that the manager's philosophy fits with the team is so important, and I think that'll be one of the main benefits if Gio does come in the door, because you look at what he brings, like you said there, David, it's the advanced fullbacks, it's the 4-3-3, but it's a lot more attacking as well, and a lot more penetrating. That's something that we've talked about over the last couple of months. We've had that conversation that we would like to see wee tweaks here or there with your current 4-3-3, so we're almost getting what we've been asking for. Not quite the amount of changes we were expecting and hoping for, but it could actually just whiff away any of the little bits of staleness we've had around the squad so far this season and just get us going in the right direction. So for me, it's no silly to try and get a manager who has built his career up and everything like that, using a formation that fits us perfect, because to me, if we are going to still be successful this season, I think we'll need that.
Stevie, here's a point I wanted to ask you about. In terms of that fresh, good feeling, when a manager leaves and it's not a sacking, and incidentally, that's a point we should maybe remember when we're talking about loyalty, that, if he'd been doing badly, we'd probably want him fired. If Gerrard had lost on Sunday, for example, in the League Cup semi, there might have been the same shouts. But when a manager leaves that you don't want to, that you want to stay, right, and as I say, there's that sense of rejection, do you get a boost as a support when somebody is I want to be there, you know, like, because it doesn't appear to be any way that we're having to persuade somebody. This isn't like Murray with his 4 months to persuade Paul Le Guen, and then when he got here he realised he actually didn't want to be here. This is, they appear to be, no, I want this. Does that help? Does it, just in terms of the sense of, I don't know, newness around the place?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it helps the fans, and I think that it helps the players as well. You know, as I said, we don't know, right, what went on, so we can only surmise and we can only say that things haven't looked great on the pitch. They haven't looked terrible, but it's been patchy. I think that's fair to say. So we can now legitimately sit here and wonder, just wonder, because we don't know definitely, but maybe there was a wee bit of staleness in the dressing room. Maybe the players are feeling that a wee bit themselves. So then they get the new guy coming in, and if the new guy is the aforementioned Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, who has such a record, he brings that excitement, he'll bring that intensity, and straight away he will demand that Rangers be be on it. We've got a fixture list now, which I think's advantageous to the new guy. And I was explaining this to somebody last night, and the reason why I'm saying this is he will very quickly find out just where the team are, in terms of, he'll have an idea of what he's going into. But we're about to hit a fixture list, which is quite tricky, but it's all good big games. The appetite should be there for the players, and the appetite should be there for the club to really go and kick on and push the season on. If he was going into games where, say he had a wee run where it was, half a dozen games where we're expected to win quite comfortably, I don't think he learns anything from the players in that situation, because it's very easy, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, to beat Ross County 4-5-1 at Ibrox, because we're expected to do that, and we should be doing that. So he doesn't learn very much. But in games where we need to dig in big semi-finals where we need to perform and things like that, he's going to see instantly and very quickly in the next 6 weeks exactly where we are and exactly where we are for him, which is important as well. So I think that there's two ways of looking at it that's quite advantageous in terms of the guy coming in, and we'll hope that the lift's going to come from that. And they'll know, and as you said, David, a very good point, we would hope that the players would be sitting there going, well, there's 4 or 5 guys in for this. He's in for it. He really wanted it. He's got the reputation. Whoever it is, as you said, we don't know who the other guys are that's in there, but whoever it is, they've fought off another couple of guys for this job. They're keen. They're going to be ready to go. So I'm hopeful that positivity is going to spread. And you often see you get a bounce. So I'm very keen for that. And just a wee bit, boys, in terms of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and just to follow on what you're saying, I'm not worldly wise in terms of who's out there and in terms of who might want it. So I can only really speak about Geo. But I think the formation thing and the whole seamless transition is quite important for me, and which is why it swings it. I'm looking forward to the wee tweaks that he might bring in terms of playing wider, playing with fullbacks, the striker having a kind of second body behind him, the point man, who I think, and we all hope in our minds it will be Alfredo, if he's playing right up top. So he likes his forward to basically be the point man, to be the target man, but to dominate defences. And I think that, or I hope that might be Alfredo 18 months ago. So one of the big things that the new manager will maybe have in his mind, or quickly have, if say he does bring in a Scottish coach or whatever, they'll maybe say to him, we need to try and get Alfredo back to Alfredo 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And if he's playing,
that'll be the first thing on the board.
Yeah,
I think that's key. Can we have our rampaging Buffalo back, please?
Yeah, and if we get that right in this formation that he might bring in Geo, which is basically what we're doing now, but with alternative tweaks, I think those alternative tweaks might favour a formation as it currently is, that had become slightly reliant and predictable. And I don't want to be seen, again, I'm repeating myself, as being critical, but that wee fresh injection amongst everybody, amongst the squad, David, just like you were saying, and the players, I think, will buy into it, and so will the support straight away. So we go to Hampden, hopefully on Sunday, with the new man in terms, and I'm going to put it all out there, I hope it's Gio. right?
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, it could probably be Zidane, and I'd probably still think I really wanted Gio, and that's really bad. Like,
Exclusive.
You do realise that there will be an article on some
Yeah.
website saying that Stevie Clifford and four lads have said that Zinedine Zidane will be Rangers' next manager.
Yeah.
You do realise that,
He
don't
is
you?
one of the secret three. That's it. It's out there now.
him and
That's it.
Pep. So, but we still want Gio.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I think
I'm
it
all
just
in.
ticks so many boxes
Yeah.
at this point.
Plus,
CJ,
You care,
Sorry.
David.
I was
Sorry.
he doesn't age. He looks exactly the bloody same as he did when he pitched up 1998. It's remarkable.
Vampire.
Oh, totally, man. He's got a picture. Definitely a picture in
I
the
was going
law.
to say regarding there wouldn't be a drastic change in the formation as well. See the fact that it's now December and we're playing like every 5 minutes. There wouldn't be a lot of
There's
time
no
for the
time.
new manager
No.
coming in on the training ground to get, because it's like kind of game. So I think that will be important as well, that he can slowly but surely add pieces during each game if it is obviously Gio and he does play his 4-3-3.
On this, and this is something I take great pride that Rangers haven't had many managers, right? I think it's remarkable for a club that's 150 years old to have the amount of managers we have, and I take great pride in that. It keeps the job special. However, you can't exist in a vacuum. Times change, and I do wonder, and this is not just Rangers, this is every club. I wonder if there is almost these days a sell-by date of 4 years ish, maybe a year either way, where a manager can get his methods and his message across, and then it's just ever decreasing circles. That there will come a high point in that, and then because you're dealing with mostly the same players in that state. You don't. Is there a cycle? I suppose is what I'm asking, and then it's either the manager has to completely either change the squad round totally and start again, or
Reinvent himself.
Reinvent himself. With Ferguson, of course, the king of that. But in the modern game, is 3-4 years, and then maybe it's time to get new eyes on it, new blood into the veins.
Well, that's what Bayern Munich do, even though they win everything all the time. Like every 3-4 years, managers out, new managers in, managers out. So you're absolutely spot on there, Dave. That's actually a really good way to put it. I never thought of that before.
We've actually we spoke about this, David, in one of our journeys, not with the manager, but in terms of the squad, and we've kind of made the point, and I've said that sometimes to freshen a squad, you have to sell your best player to get the funds in to then be able to shuffle the pack and switch things around. It's maybe not necessarily what you want to do in terms of, you always want to keep, ideally you would have your best players in every position, but sometimes for a club like Rangers who don't have the EPL tap, like Ajax do, they sell their best, they shuffle it round and things like that. And we've spoke about that before, and we've made the point that perhaps we'll get to that stage, maybe January next summer, etc. But what's actually happened is that it's happened with the management. So inadvertently, the points that we maybe made to each other and kind of chatting as we do, because when we take a journey, we're just doing what we do now, but which is talk Rangers, and we inadvertently what we've discussed, I think, actually happened in the managerial position. So I don't. Again, it goes back to what we've discussed, and the whole point is that I'm trying to look at this as being a positive and not get bogged down in anything else.
Kind of guy.
Yeah,
I like that.
But
well, because it is a choice. Because yes, you can say that it's terrible and everything's going to go rotten, or you can say it's going to be great and everything's going to go well, or any point in between. It's entirely up to you. We don't know. There's no way of knowing, and therefore it's a perfectly legitimate thing to say that. I don't think it's that far fetched to say that if Rangers get the right guy, then it could be a positive, because obviously at any appointment at any stage, hire the wrong guy and it will go tits up. That's a fact as well. But if you get it right, then you give yourself an opportunity. Stevie mentioned something there I just want to touch upon with both of you. I'll start with you, CJ, but then I want to get Stevie's input on it as well, which is, as always happens, when a manager leaves, he's linked with ex-players. Happens at every single club.
Yeah.
He'll be linked with a couple. Now, the two, obviously, that we've been linked with are Kent and Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were kind of, oh, God, our best players are going to leave. I mean, my take on it is it's not like our best players aren't up for sale anyway.
Yep.
Everyone in that squad is available. And you know, don't kid yourselves on that. Everyone in that squad could be sold if an offer comes in at the right level. I don't think this increases or decreases the chances of those two going, to be quite honest with you. Thoughts?
That's pretty much it. Like, no matter what manager goes anywhere, David, it's always the exact same. And we're obviously kind of focused on Irvine, so it's really blown up, and that's all we're focused on. But if you look at anyone around the place, I mean, Eddie Howe at Newcastle, even though he's got all this money, he's still linked with like some players that he's worked with in that previously in the past. That will just be for everything. But at least if we do end up moving people on it and they are going to the Premier League, that usually means there's a bit of a price tag there, so that'll be all right. So I'll be all right with that. But like you said, it's a seller's market. Yeah.
He can hardly come in and say, for example, I'll give you $5 million for Nathan Patterson, because or Ross Wilson, he says, well, actually, I've got this clip of you here saying that's a laughable. Yeah, that's a laughable amount of money. So, you know, he could hardly do that. Stevie?
Let's just be clear of one thing.
I love the dramatic pause.
It was.
That.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button.
Oh,
you ruined that. I thought you were like Daniel Day-Lewis or something.
I thought it was like an actor, and he was like, yes.
You got me. Like, I was intrigued that you. Oh, right, go for it. Sorry.
No, sadly, it wasn't planned. It was more for dramatical intent, not for dramatical intent, unfortunately. But what I would say is, Mr. Gerrard, that if you come back in January and you start pissing us around, and excuse the French, everyone, but the thought of it does kind of annoy me. If he comes back in and starts doing the Nathan Patterson, 7 million bids and all that, that's when my patience will run thin with him. Because at the moment, I'm all right with what's went on, etc. But if he starts coming in and trying to disrupt people, if he comes back for players, I've got no issue with that. In terms of, like you said, David, it's not like we're playing a game that we don't know the outcome. The outcome is that if they hit the price tag that we believe they're worth, then they'll go. So what I want from him is, if he does want Joe Aribo, and I think that Joe Aribo is more likely than Glenn Kamara and Ryan Kent, to be perfectly honest, because I think that Joe Aribo was... He always spoke about Joe Aribo, and he didn't really speak about others as much.
He loves Joe Aribo.
Yeah. So
Aribo started the last 22 games, isn't he, or something like that?
He absolutely loves Joe Aribo.
So say he came in and bid $4 million for Joe Aribo, I would be set to get in the car and go and have words, But my point being is that as long as he does it properly, as long as he does it with the same standards that he would have wanted when he was here managing, then if he comes back in for players, it might actually be a good thing for us in terms of trying to get that player trading model. And we've got to remember as well, say we are short of 7 million this season, which we've spoke about, the potential for January funds wasn't very high. Now the money that's come in for Gerrard might plug that somewhat in terms of when it gets to January, if we make a player sale, that extra 2-3 million might be there. So that goes back to a wee point I made a couple of minutes ago about sometimes you have to lose somebody really good to try and freshen up and go for places that the manager might want to go to. He's going to, say it was Geo or say it was Ronald Koeman or say it was whoever's been linked, they're going to want some of their own players as well. So in order to do that, there might be a wee bit of player trading to be done. But the great thing about that is we've been left in a position where we can do it, where there is assets in the squad. There is £10 million players. Even if other people don't want to set that narrative, Yanis Hadji straight away, 12 million pounds. So we know it's true. And what it does, there's scope for things to happen and there's scope for things to do. It's very, very unusual. And I don't think, apart from Souness leaving, that Rangers have ever been in a position in my lifetime where we're top of the league, we're in a semi-final, we're doing okay in Europe, but we have an asset full squad where we can trade and we can do well. So there's lots of scope and excitement for a new manager coming in. And I think that'll be one of the big draws to this job, in terms of maybe why we have seen a high calibre of name interested, because not only have you got the opportunity to immediately try and win silverware and kick on, you don't really have to uplift the squad. It's a different kind of challenge. You're not having to come in and lift this squad, you're having to come in and just carry them on and give them a slight boost. but he's then got the opportunity to play with that squad how he thinks. It's like the ultimate game of Football Manager, really.
Oh, it is. I mean, the circumstances are pretty decent for a manager, and you know that if you are the right mindset, you are looking at it and seeing opportunity, which is what you want in a manager. You shouldn't be looking at it.
Word, David.
You shouldn't be looking at it and be seeing the negatives. You should see, you should be aware of any negatives, but you should obviously be more excited about the possibilities. Last week, I sat and watched Nathan Patterson fire Scotland off to the playoffs for the World Cup. And this got me thinking as well that the manager, I think the previous manager had made pretty clear Tav was his number one guy. And there's been some debate about whether he should be. I wonder then, we hear a lot from managers, they come in and they say, you know, it's a blank slate for everyone. And I don't think it is, right? Because I think a manager arrives and he goes, well, he's our top, you know, I've watched the videos, I've done the stats. It's him, and him, right? But does that perhaps open up opportunities for players, CJ, who maybe have been a wee bit down the pecking order? That new boss, you know, impress him in training, get your shot. You know, he's a new manager isn't beholden to any player, or rather, beholden's not the right word, but doesn't have 3 years of
Loyalty and stuff like
loyalty instilled in him. Yes.
Yeah, I think absolutely, and I've seen a lot of people, and I've seen some comments, and we said, "Oh, the team's going to be really doing, or maybe down tools around." But I actually think it's going to be the exact opposite. I think we've got a really strong competitive squad. We've kind of touched on that, Stevie, and perfectly talked about it there. And I think now, when someone else comes in now, they'll know that every single spot, there's nothing new, there's no loyalty being built up, like we just said there. There's nothing that's been previously done. It will be a clean slate, and you're looking over at our space. Not even just Nathan Patterson, Tavernier. You've got Calvin Bassey really chasing down Barisic in the left-hand side there as well, and you can see that all over the park, and that's why I get excited about the new manager coming in, and I'm thinking it's going to be very, very... I think it might be a wee bit safer, like maybe the first game or two, David. I think that will be one of the ends where it'll kind of stick to what we've came to expect, but as the months and everything go by and you start seeing this testing period that we talked about earlier on in today's video, that for me is just mere positives, and that's why I'm so excited rather than being the negative about Gerrard leaving and all this is going to go wrong. I'm like, no, there's players there, there's really talented players now, and they'll get an opportunity to shine, and guys like Hadji and Bakuna are maybe the more advanced role centre of the park, open space up on the wings and everything for other players. Like, you probably hear it to me, I'm buzzing for that. That's genuinely one of the main things that I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I don't quite see Stevie why it's an automatic tools downing thing when a new manager comes in. I would kind of hope it would be the opposite.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've not considered that viewpoint that the players would down tools. I don't think that's correct. You're going to look. There's going to be players in that squad that are disappointed, and there's going to probably be players in that squad that only came because of Steven Gerrard, but they maybe only came at the start because of Steven Gerrard, but what they will have seen since they've been here, the passion of the crowd, the size of the club, the training facilities, etc. I don't think they're going to, spit the dummy out and be all upset. And then you get the other side of it. You'll get the players who maybe didn't think that they were getting the best out of themselves under the situation and under the management. And, you could throw a few names in, but I don't think that helps. But let's just say that there'll be some players that haven't reached their potential that we think this season that will maybe be relishing a new challenge, a change of formation and things. So, yeah, I mean, let's look at it in terms of something that I've picked up on the last couple of days that's slightly miffed. Like, people go for sensational headlines like there'll be some people at the club who'll be happy Steven Gerrard have gone. Of course there will be. Yep. He's not going to be liked by everybody. That's not sensational new news. That's a pile of shite. If I left my work tomorrow, there would be people that would be delighted. There would be people that would be upset. Not as many as there would be that would be delighted. However, but you know what I mean. So I don't think that. I think that's sensational headline grabbing, right? Yep. As far as I'm concerned, and when from what I've heard, Steven Gerrard was predominantly well liked, and he had the respect of everyone. Of course, there's going to be players that are a bit miffed that aren't playing, etc. So no, I mean I don't. That's one thing that I have been keen to kind of say, and I think all this talk of it really gets on my tits actually. This talk of problems and issues when somebody leaves, like I think that's an easy and poor narrative. I'm not saying it's all wonderful, CJ, but I'm just saying that it's a really easy thing to say. A guy leaves and let's slag him and let's take digs at him and stuff like that. I don't think that's correct. Was it all rosy? No, but I doubt you go to any club in the world and it'll be rosy anyway. But I realise I've went off in a wee bit of a kind of...
Oh, I like it, mate. You've got spicy at the end. I like it.
It just annoys me the last couple of days. Like, the headlines all things and that, right? I think that's a nonsense, mate. Honestly, I do. And you go anywhere in the world and there'll be players that like the coach and some players that are a bit miffed they're not playing. That's natural. It happens everywhere. But I'm just keen now. I'm excited. I think we've got a really exciting fixture list. We've got a big semi-final. We've got a big game in Europe. Then we've got big games in the league. So I'm excited now to kick on, boys, get somebody in and just get behind them. There'll be enthusiasm. If it's Geo, Hampden will be like I see, like a whole
Dutch game.
Oh, it will be.
The crowd will be up for it. The excitement, the positivity, that's going to feed itself onto the players. Players will be out to impress. Players will be kicking on. See that wee 5 to 10% we've maybe not been getting because it's a bit stale, or maybe for some people and stuff like that. Then that'll all be back. And plus, Ryan Kent's back, and he looked absolutely sensational. And he'll be wanting to kick on, and while this is going on, he's just been at the farm with his horse.
I love that. I genuinely love that a bit.
So I'm a bit concerned about Andy Firth, but apart from that,
I feel for Andy. I've got to admit, devastated. He'll be devastated. But to your point, Stevie, I can't name an office that I've ever experienced that there weren't people who liked people and people who didn't like people, and some people who loved the boss and some people who couldn't stand them. Show me a group of 50 people where they're all busy mates, and I'll show you 50 liars. It's complete nonsense. But as you say, it's an easy grab.
And that's us reached the end of the old podcast. As always, shout out to David from Heart and Hand and Stevie from Four Lads Harajin. Their links will be down there, down in the description below. But as this bad boy's been about 56 minutes long, it's time to wrap up the bad boy. So until next time, take care of yourselves, everyone. I've been Siege Over 92. All the best, and bye bye.